JITO USA San Francisco chapter. Thank you, Kamleshi.
Thank you, Suvarnaji. Um, Let me just take a brief moment and thank you again for being here. And I'll share with you about JITO and JITO USA. We'll take like a few minutes and walk you through because there are many new people here on the webinar and it'll be very helpful for them. Let me just use my slide. Um, all right. So JITO India has been in existence since 2007. So we're only talking about 13 years. It's very, very new organization from India point of view. And if you really look at it, there are 9 zones, 100 plus chapters, 35 units in India, and 15 global chapters. More than 14,000 members all around the world, and more than 800 crores been collected as part of JITO in the endowment fund, which is a lot of money. And if we translate into dollars, it will be multi-millions of dollars. Okay. Many projects have been executed since then. And just to give you a recent example is 5.1 million food packets been distributed for COVID in India. There are 13 plus COVID care centers because after COVID issues, there's a care required. So people all around India, they are actually working really hard, and I'll show you what the objectives are. In JITO USA was formed in 2017. And just to make a note of, it's a C6 organization, which is what that means is not-for-profit professional organization. And the first chapter we launched in 2017 back in New York. In 2018, we launched in San Francisco. We opened this year 2 more units, which is one is Los Angeles, second is Chicago. And the idea of unit is to basically seed and feed the idea and the awareness about JITO in these cities. And then we transform after a majority, we transform into a chapter as a full-fledged chapter. If you have any questions, feel free to post your questions in the chat window. There is a Q&A session at the end and we'll be happy to address them. So what is JITO's objectives or goals? There are 3 categories if you really look at it. One is the business growth. Second is the economic empowerment and the social service. And there are a series of objectives have been written. I'm not going to go through everything, but just to give you a few ideas and the highlight where the organization is focusing all over the world. Number 1 is you want to create a network of professionals, business owners, leaders across different industries and sectors. That is very important so that we can provide the economic development among Jain Brotherhood. Number 2 is create programs for the scholarships and educational loans for our needy Jain students. Number 3 is foster charitable and humanitarian community services so that we can bring Jain Brotherhood from poverty to prosperity. I think the operative word is poverty to prosperity. I think that's very important. Number 4 is, and I'm not going through the slide, I'm just looking at what I believe in it and what I'm really appreciative of. And number 4 is the organize high-level meetings with the government officials, industry leaders, so that we can plan strategically, we can look at long-term, and at the same time, understand the diplomatic policy so that the critical issues which are affecting our respective professionals and business members. So all in all, this is a great platform to actually connect all of us together and help us each other. And then by doing the social service, if you really look at it, we are going after transforming one life at a time, irrespective of that is in India or in the United States. And that's why there are many social service programs that are available. Let's talk about San Francisco chapter. Since its ceremony in 2018, 250 professionals, they attended the ceremony and it was fantastic. We have launched these many initiatives, and these initiatives are being supported by the committee members and the committee leaders. And this is one of them, which we are talking about, Women's Forum, which is, JITO's Women Forum, basically empowerment of women, specifically in the professional world, in the corporate world, and in the healthcare. And that's why one of the seminars is today. You will be, talking and interacting with an expert in the nutrition and well-being. The other ones is JNF. Is the idea is to do the networking meetings and so forth. And the idea is to get to know each other so that we can influence at all fronts. Executive Forum is designed for the executives, entrepreneurs, CEOs, CISOs, or COOs, so that we can actually do the roundtable discussions for people, and at the same time help in the operational aspect of it. There could be dialogues on one-on-one basis, and there could be dialogues with collection of different executives. Um, Membership and outreach program. This is basically create the awareness about JITO in USA, and that's why the committee has been formed and the initiative and the programs have been launched. Mentor and mentee events. This is very important. A lot of professionals anywhere in the age group of 25 to 55. There are industry leaders and there are people who really need some help. So the idea is to bring that mentorship in the leadership and the entrepreneurship together, and then we can share that. Future Jane Youth Leaders, FJLP. This program is rocking. This program is for youth and run by youth. And this program, if you really look at it, is 14 plus to 21 age group, and they're doing outstanding job to begin with. They are basically formed in Northern California. Their group here, their board running, and they're running 3 agenda items. One is the mentorship, leadership, and entrepreneurship. And they run by themselves, by the way. We are just the facilitators. They've also opened in Southern California. There is a branch there, and they're working on opening in New York and Chicago. So you can imagine the young, they're coming together and they're building their own professional network of people. Of course, this year was a sad year with COVID-19. Yes, we ran webinar series in different areas, and some of the areas which are mentioned here, federal funding, financing options, and so forth. And we try to bring specific topics of relevance to our member communities. With that, I think what I would like to do is I would like to invite Sonal Gandhiji, and she's gonna walk us through the next aspect of it. And she is expert in the education area, and of course we have worked with her many times back in Jain Center of Northern California. She is a great volunteer, and she's been instrumental here in making this JWF happen. So with that, thank you so much, and I would like to welcome Sonalji. Please take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamlesh Bhai. Jai Jinendra, and a very warm welcome to all. Now that we know a little about JITO and how the Women Forum fits into the larger organization, let's go into some more details. Who we are, what we do, and why join. JITO Women Forum, JWF, provides a platform for networking and collaboration, and it also provides opportunities on the personal and professional front. What makes this forum so unique is that we aim to achieve all this, keeping in mind the Jain way of life. Next slide. Organizing any event takes team effort. Here is our team of dedicated volunteers who aim to bring a variety of informational programs for our community, and we would love for you to be a part of it. Details on how to join will be presented at the end of the webinar. Let me hand it over to Shilpa, who will be introducing our guest speaker for today.
Sonal. Good morning and Jai Jinendra everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce the speaker, Sara Hunt. She's going to talk about the pillars of healthy living. Health and wellness is always important and even more important during these unprecedented times. Sara Hunt is a registered nurse and diabetes educator. She is a certified health and wellness coach through Well Coaches and the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. Sara helps educate clients to establish realistic and sustainable goals while empowering them to make behavioral changes. She believes food is medicine and that sleep, stress management, and work-life balance are key factors towards healthy living Sara has been a nurse for 17 years. She started her career in critical care, which inspired her to keep her patients healthy and prevent from chronic disease. She currently works in corporate wellness and co-leads a lifestyle medicine program for the employees of Bay Area Biotech Company. I hope you all are as excited as I am to listen, learn, and take notes from this session. Please hold off any questions you have for Sara during the presentation, as there will be an opportunity to ask questions towards the end. Without any further ado, please join me in welcoming Sara Hunt.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the warm introduction. I'm so honored to be here with all of you today. And I want to thank JITO and the San Francisco Women's Forum for the kind invitation. We will be talking today about lifestyle medicine and how to keep everybody healthy during these difficult times, because it is more important now than ever. And my biggest hope for you is that you'll take away some tools that you can realistically implement some healthy habits with you and your family as we go into the new year. If you can bring the slides up, please.
Should I go to the next?
Sure.
You see the
Thank
slide,
you.
right?
Yes, I see it now. I'm sorry, I see it. So I'd also like to just add, I've been a nurse for over 17 years, and one of the things I enjoy most is this lifestyle medicine, because it impacts all of our daily activities. And so what lifestyle medicine is it's looking at whole foods, predominantly plant-based, regular activity, which includes exercise and our regular day-to-day movement, sleep, which is a priority. It's really the foundation of all of these other habits being successful, stress management, substances like alcohol and tobacco, and connection, which this group is so supportive in promoting. And basically, we really want to prevent, and we can also work towards reversing chronic diseases if you already have something that's in existence. Next slide, please. So today, what we're going to focus on out of those pillars are the main four, which is around food. We'll talk about what you can do as far as meal planning, some meal prep, what to keep in your pantry these days. We're going to talk about portion sizes. We're going to talk about movement, which activity and exercise, both are important. We're going to talk about sleep around quality, quantity, and bedtime routines, which is really impactful. And we're going to talk about overall well-being and stress management, and hopefully I can give you some tools that you can use that are simple and use them consistently. Next, please. Okay, so I'd like to just get to know everybody. If people want to go ahead and put in the chat, what are your favorite fall, winter, or vegetables that you like to cook with this time of year? And you can just write one and we'll take a look. Wonderful. I see onions. Yes, I love onions. They're versatile. You can pretty much go with anything. Squash, beautiful squashes, right? Delicata, butternut squash. You can roast them. You can make soups. Anybody else? Leafy vegetables, yes. Okay, those are some great items. Broccoli, yes, fabulous, very healthy. Kale, I like that everybody's eating their greens. So that's wonderful. So we're going to talk a little bit about those today and talk about how we can use them. So let's go to the next slide, please. we'll go plate. Okay, so this is a plate and it's actually from the Canadian food guide. I like it because it's beautiful with the color. And so often, instead of having people measure their food, what we'll use is tell them to use their plate. And so the recommendation is that half your plate should be fresh fruit and vegetables, right? Greens are great. The other quarter part of the plate would be whole grains. So your rice, your quinoas, your potatoes. Legumes are a little tricky. They have protein and carbs, so you could count them in your grains or proteins. And then protein wise, mostly plant based, right? So lentils, beans, soy would be your options. Nuts, seeds would go in that category. So when we recommend how to eat, color matters. We tell people to eat the color of the rainbow, right? Because that ensures that you're getting a variety of nutrients and vitamins. Also, another successful way to do this is to eat seasonally, right? So we just talked about kale, squashes. That's all beautiful winter, fall items. And so that you're getting food in the peak of their nutrients. Other ways to do it too is frozen foods are successful because they're frozen at their peak versus using something canned. So this is a great way for portions if you're not sure what your plate should look like. Next slide, please. Protein. So protein is always a hot topic. Everybody's worried they're not getting enough protein, but I will tell you that it's very rare in this country that we ever see people that are not getting enough protein. And so there's this myth that you can't get enough protein from eating plants without having animal products, and that's just not true. Now, as far as how much protein to get, it is based on age and weight, and there's formulas that you can use, but let's say about 40 grams or so at least. And so if we were to look at this chart here, beans, legumes, nuts, whole grain, veggies, those all contain protein. So if you were to have, for example, a bowl of lentils, about a cup, that's giving you about 20 grams of protein. If you then went ahead and had a snack of almonds during the day, that's another 6, so we're at about 25. If you had a potato, whether it's a sweet potato or a baked potato, that's adding another 5, you're up to about 30. And then you have a big bed of greens with maybe some more legumes or soy, which soy is not on here, but soy has a significant amount of protein. You've already hit your protein source for the day, right? So we often exceed it. And so it's not true that you can't get enough protein from eating plants, nuts, seeds, soy. That said, if you're interested in finding out exactly how much, one site that I like to use is called Chronometer. And if you use the desktop version, it's free versus the app you have to pay, but it'll break down. You'll have to track, enter your food, your weight, your age, and things like that. But it will basically tell you where you're at and where you should be. So that's a good resource if you're concerned that you're not getting enough. Your other option is to meet with a dietitian who could give you more of a breakdown. Next slide, please. So this slide here, it's about calorie density, right? So not all calories are equal. So when we look at this, each one of these pictures is representative of 500 calories. So you can see that in a couple tablespoons of oil, it's only going to fill your stomach a little bit. If you have some cheese, right? People go home, they have cheese and bread, it's a quick fix. It's going to fill your stomach about a quarter of a way. And then you go to beans, potatoes, rice, and vegetables, it's significantly more, and you feel satisfied, right? There's more fiber, there's more hydration. And the reason why this is important is that your stomach is about the size of your fist. So when it stretches, it releases messengers to your brain that you're full. That's why, you could eat potato chips or something, which is not that dense and has oil, and you're still hungry, versus if, a salad, you sometimes feel full because you're taking up more room in the stomach. There's more fiber, there's more water. So that's why 500 calories of vegetables, you get a lot more bang for your buck, right? You have a big full plate versus, 2 cookies, maybe you're at 500 calories and it's just a small portion. So that's something to keep in mind as far as weight management. And so this actually came from Fork Over Knives, and that's a great resource. They have recipes, they have a lot of information on plant-based eating. Next slide, please. And so people often ask me about portion size and measuring. So one tool I like to use is the hand portion guide, because you always have your hand with you. You don't need to pull out scales. But basically a fistful is representative of your serving of grains, right? Like your rice, your quinoa, your potato. It would be about a fist, about a cup. And then vegetables, the green leafy, you can really have as much as you want. So about 2 handfuls or about half of that plate again is the serving. When you get into things like corn or like the squashes that have a little bit of starch, you would have a little less, but the only time I really get restrictive with that is if somebody has diabetes, because the starch would impact blood glucose. But if you're not concerned and that's not an issue for you, you don't have to worry too much. But if you are concerned, you can then consider it more under your starches and about a cup, a fist size for those types of items. The other thing is your protein source. This says meat, but that would be your protein, your beans, your soy, nuts varies, but about a handful or 12 to 20 dependent upon the nuts. And then fat is about the thumb, right? So your oil, your olives. If you think about cheese, you get a thumb or two. And if you think about pizza, how many thumbfuls you have on your slices of pizza, fat is basically what impacts our cholesterol, our blood glucose, weight. So it's not that you can't have it, it's in moderation, right? So a scoop of peanut butter or nut butter or something like that. Or your oils, about a tablespoon, ghee, things like that. So next question or slide, please. Okay, so oils, this was one of the questions. And so there's basically different types of fat. Not all fats are bad. We have our saturated fats. Those typically come from animal products. And the reason we're concerned with saturated fats is because that's what raises our LDL. I remember L for lousy. That's our bad cholesterol, right? That's what's going to clog the inside of our arteries. So we want to limit that. So we do have it in cheese and yogurt and any kind of dairy products. Monosaturated fats, those are our healthy fats, our almonds, our walnuts, our avocados. We want that. Our body needs healthy fats. So those are good fats. And then you get into polyunsaturated fats, and a little is okay, but not a lot. The ones that you want to avoid are the hydrogenated oils. And so the government's really cracked down. We don't have a lot of trans fats or hydrogenated things. It's more in processed foods. You'll find hydrogenated oils when you're cookies or different packaged things. An example would be Crisco, for example. It's hydrogenated. So if somebody uses that for baking, there's better choices. A good all-purpose oil is avocado oil. I tend to use that a lot at home for cooking. It has a higher smoking point. So if you'll go to the next slide, please. Well, I know people are interested in the smoke points. And so this is a great resource. It's from cooksmart.com. They have a whole oil guide, and that's where I got these graphs. But you can see that the avocado oil, 520 degrees, right? Versus the olive oil, people like olive oil, but you can't cook as high with it. I know coconut oil is popular, but one thing about that is it does have saturated fat. So it would be a better choice to use it like in a traditional dish and use it for flavor, like put it in at the end where you would actually get the flavor of it, versus using it for a primary oil for cooking. And then you can see on the second chart next to it, it has the breakdown of saturated fat, polyunsaturated fat, and monosaturated fat. So you can see that avocado oil for the monosaturated is about 71%. Olive oil is great too, but you can't get high temperatures. So that's a great one to like drizzle after you cook on vegetables or salads or things like that. So I recommend, there's a very detailed discussion around oils on the site. It'd be a great reference for you to go back if you're interested in that. Next slide, please. Okay, so one thing I want to point out is oil is great, but it is a fat. So if we're looking at weight loss, there's about 9 calories in 1 gram of fat, right? So that adds up. So if you're looking to decrease your calories or lose weight, there are ways to cook without using oil, right? So one method you could consider, if you're sauteing and you usually put oil in the pan, you could use water, you could use vegetable stock, you could use vinegar or amino acids, something just for moisture. You know, it's okay to let, you want it brown, you want the taste, like the caramelization, but you can use water and different things and vegetable stock. I tend to use vegetable stock. If I order a box, you know, every couple of weeks, I'll buy it, but cheap way is to take the stems of the and the wrappers, and you can boil with water and make your own stock. And then I have ice trays where you can take the extra and freeze it. So if I just want a couple ice cubes, I put it in the pan instead of oil. It's cheap. It, you know, you open a container of vegetable broth, I usually waste half of it, right? So even if you were to buy that, you could freeze it also. That's a great tip. Another option with the roasting, you know, we tend to coat it in oil before we put it in the oven, but another way to get around that is using parchment paper on the baking sheet, or there's these nice silicone liners, and you don't have to use as much oil. You could use the oil in the spray, like get a can or one of those pumps where you use a spray, so you use a little less, but you can get the same impact and use herbs for flavor with a little less oil. So next slide, please. So I know we had talked about fiber, and so fiber is really important for many reasons, but this is a great resource. It's from Dr. Greger. He wrote the book, How Not to Die, and he has a wonderful website called nutritionfacts.org. But I encourage my clients to print this. You can get it on the website, and you can keep it on your fridge. So if you're trying to incorporate more healthy vegetable, you know, power foods and more fiber in your diet, this is a great way if you just incorporate these ingredients. So for example, beans, legumes, you know, put them in your salad, put them in a grain bowl, put them in a soup, mix them with rice, and you've already got your 3 servings for the day. Fruit, you want to choose more fibrous fruit if you're trying to work on fiber. So that would include things like berries, apples, pears, have a lot of fiber. And then greens, you know, obviously you could put them in a smoothie. You could make a savory dish in the morning, like a hash. You could have a salad. You could have a bed of greens sauteed at dinner. So there's lots of options how to incorporate throughout your day. Flaxseed is a wonderful thing. It has healthy oils. There's fiber. Flaxseed shown to reduce risk of breast cancer and prostate cancer. So I will either put flaxseed on a smoothie, I'll sprinkle it on a salad, I'll put it in a soup, but I try to have like a spoonful daily. And you can buy it ground, but the best way really to get it, because of the oils for pure, is to buy the seeds. And I have one of those little coffee grinders, and you can use it for other spices. And you can keep it in the fridge once you grind it for a few days. And so that's just getting it a little bit pure form of the oils, the benefits. And then berries, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, frozen this time of year is fine. You know, whether you put them on oatmeal or a parfait, or you mix them in a salad, but try and get a serving of berries every day. Cruciferous, lots of options this time of year. nuts and seeds. You can use almonds, walnuts. Those have the omega-3s in them. Those are the healthier versions. And then seeds, pumpkin seeds have a lot of zinc. That's great for our immune system. Also chia seeds, right? Chia is a great form of fiber, so you can put it in a smoothie. If you have kids, you could use a nut milk and chia pudding, like for a snack. You can put it on salads. I know people that put it in water and drink it, as a treat. So that's another option. And then spices, turmeric, which you usually use in many dishes, is an anti-inflammatory. It's very healthy. So this is a great resource. It also mentions vitamin B12, which I know there's lots of conversation about, but the recommendation is if you do follow a vegan diet to get a supplement of B12. If you are questioning starting that, one thing you can do is get a test, a methyl malic acid test from your doctor yearly if you're vegan, and that will guide you as far as the dosing. So B12 traditionally comes from bacteria that's in our soil. And so we didn't really need to take supplementation before, right? Because we would get it naturally through our water sources, but they're very filtered now. It also came from on our vegetables when we harvested them, and there's dirt, right? The dirt would contain that on the vegetables, but because farming is just depleted, we're requiring more dosing. But if you're questioning if you need it or not, I would talk to your primary doctor and you can have a test to find out. But Dr. Greger has a great webinar that's a few hours just on B12 itself, and you can find it here on nutritionfacts.org. So that would be where I would point you in that direction to learn more. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is always a popular one. Meal planning, prepping. What do I do? I'm busy. I have kids. People in the house don't like this. They don't like that. Where do I start? So one easy way to start with meal prepping is just to choose one meal of the day and prep for it, whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, or snacks. And then you can continue to build on that. So I usually work with clients to pick a couple of recipes that are friendly to your family, and you can have those and recycle them. So easy ones are doing a stir fry, doing a grain bowl, having soups, different pastas. You could do curry dishes. Kids like taco bars, pasta, add vegetables or beans. And then make your shopping list according to the recipes on it. This will also help from you going ahead and buying things that you don't want to keep in the pantry, right? So not bringing it home is half the challenge. And then consider batch cooking. So if you pick one day designated during the week, whether it's a Sunday, and make soups, you can keep some for half the week and then freeze some for lunches in individual containers, or do sauces that maybe take longer to simmer that you can pull out during midweek to do a pasta or a vegetable dish. That's another option. And then you always want to keep your pantry stocked, right? So some great things that you can use, they last a while, is stock your grains, whether it's rice or quinoa or amaranth. Have your different versions of legumes, whether it's canned or dried, and your spice, your nuts, your seeds. Those are your go-to. All right, next slide, please. All right, so right now everybody's, we're concerned with our immune systems and what's going on. And so I have to say a large part of our immunity, over 80%, it comes from our gut health. And so by eating fresh fruits and vegetables and predominantly a plant-based diet, we contribute to our healthy gut, right? And so immune support foods would consist of vitamin C, vitamin E, zinc, and you can get those from citrus. You can get them from nuts and seeds. We get them from our green vegetables. And this is important because a plant-rich diet basically is fueling us with the antioxidants. And what that does is it reduces oxidative stress. So when we look at any type of chronic disease, really what it comes down to is inflammation, whether it's cardiovascular disease or autoimmune diseases, all of that contributes to inflammation. So by getting foods like citrus, greens, using your spices like ginger, turmeric, onions, all those have great health effects. And so you can find more out on PCRM.org, and they have a whole list of foods that support your immune system. Next slide, please. All right. So we talked a lot about nutrition. Next is movement. So we're just going to take a minute or two break. So this is an opportunity for you to get up, get water, hydrate, move. You know, a 2-3 minute break every hour throughout your day is a great way. You can play a song, you can step in place, you could walk around the house. But we're going to take a minute. So everybody go ahead and stand up and move. You can either walk around the house or step in place, but let's all do that. Okay, well, we'll continue on. So we'll go with the next slide. All right, so this is a big one that I keep having conversations with my clients about. And so there is a difference between activity and exercise. So the recommendation around exercise is you want it something that gets your heart rate up, right? So a brisk walk, or, you know, people bike, they dance, all sorts of stuff. So the recommendation from the American Heart Association is 150 minutes a week. So about 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Now I have patients that say I do 60 minutes. And so what I say with that is try not to go more than 2 days without exercise, right? So if you could do it every other day, that would be great, regardless of the time amount. And so when it comes to weight training, we like 2 to 3 times a week of some kind of resistance. You know, women in particular, after 30, we're losing muscle mass. And so it's really important that we do something that's weight bearing and to build muscle. So muscle is important when we look at our metabolic function. So when you exercise and do cardio, you're going to get a reduce in your blood glucose and your metabolic system, which lasts for about 24 hours. When you do weight training, research is showing about 48 hours. So that's why we can get away with it 2 to 3 times a week. Stretching, especially with the amount that people are sitting and working from home, I recommend you do some kind of light stretching every day, and that doesn't have to take long. It can just be a few minutes. I've put resources here. I've put the American Heart Association, which has the guidelines for kids and adults. And then I've put the CDC recommendation. And then I have ACE, which is the American College of Exercise. They have a great little resource library with exercises where you can go ahead and get them. Always check with your doctor before starting a new program, especially if you have diabetes or cardiovascular disease. And if you have any symptoms, whether it's muscular pain or other pain, you know, and it doesn't go away with rest, you want to follow up with your doctor. Now, in terms of activity, activity is what you do throughout the day. So many of us are working from home right now, right? So some of us who traveled and walked through airports carrying luggage, we're not doing that anymore. If you were on campus, you would walk from building to building or walk to the cafeteria and get your lunch. So we've really had a reduction in our steps, taking the stairs. And so, you know, it only takes about 2 weeks to really have impact on our overall physical. So what I like to work with my clients on is how can you mimic some of those activities throughout your day? So could you go for a mini walk up and down the street in the morning to mimic from you walking from your house to your work building? You know, can you have walking meetings where maybe you don't have to be in front of the computer, but you could call in and either walk around the house or the backyard or walk a block? You know, in my family, we've committed to moving twice a day, even if it's a 10 to 15-minute walk between the kids learning, home learning Zoom meetings and my meetings, but we try to get out once in the morning and once in the evening. So those are some resources there. I encourage you to try and be active and try to move even for a couple of minutes every hour. Consider using a sit to stand desk even. Next slide, please. So like we said, ask yourself, how are you moving throughout your day? Not just formal exercise on the bike or the treadmill, but how are you moving every hour? Think about the challenges and strategies, and we're going to come back to this at the end of our talk. Next slide. And this is an action plan. This actually can apply to any of the habits that we're talking about today. And we'll do some examples at the end. But in terms of exercise, what will you do? I will walk. Where will I do it? I will walk in my neighborhood. When will I do it? I will do it in the morning at 10 a.m. when I get a break. How long? I'll do it for 15 to 30 minutes. What are the challenges I might face? The weather, it's raining. So what could I do instead? Strategies would be to put on a video and do some kind of dance video or walk around the house. See what my other options are would be your coping. So next slide, please. All right, so sleep. Really, I think this is one of the most important of all the habits, because if we don't sleep well, it impacts our food choices, it impacts having energy to exercise, it impacts our stress levels, we're not focused. And so sleep is really important. It's a priority. So some things that contribute to quality sleep would be having a consistent sleep and wake time. So bedtime routines are very important. We do it for our children, for example. We do it without thinking. We get their pajamas on, they have a bath, they brush their teeth, we dim the lights, we read a book, right? And maybe put some music on. And so having some kind of bedtime routine, and you can work your way backwards. So maybe 30 minutes to 45 minutes, however much time you need to unwind, consider making a bedtime routine.
Hot. Okay. You make it extra hot. Regular milk is fine.
And then avoid blue lights. So devices, computers, limit as much as you can. You can either use blue light glasses, can help sometimes, but avoidance would be the best choice. If you're going to read, you know, use the settings to dim the background, or use an actual book would be the recommendation. And then alcohol and caffeine can be stimulants, so avoiding those 3 hours before bed. And then temperature of the room. If it's too hot or cold, that impacts our sleep. So about 66 degrees or so, you know, not too hot, not too cold is a good way to approach it. Sometimes taking a bath or a shower before bed, if you're having a hard time falling asleep, is a good option, because you're warm and you step out and it naturally cools our core body temperature. So that's another tip. And getting out in the morning. So that 10 a.m. walk, that mid-morning is very important, not only for exercise, but our body sees the sunlight, and that's what helps us produce melatonin, which is the hormone that makes us sleepy at night. So it's very important to get out and use that natural light in the morning. Hydration, so we're not too dry, but also hydrating earlier in the day so you're not having it too close to bedtime and being woken up and then to use the restroom and you can't go back to sleep. So timing your fluids. If you're somebody who's on diuretics or medications and you're taking it too late in the day, I would talk to your physician about changing the timing. I wouldn't do it on your own, but talk to them if it's making you wake up and go to the bathroom more frequently. The recommendation is actually 7 to 9 hours, at least 6, depending on quality, but you can work with that, half-hour increments if you're going to try and get more sleep. I wouldn't try to go to bed all of a sudden you were at midnight and now you're going at 10. I would work my way back in 30-minute increments in each week until you hit the target. And then if you're somebody who struggles with insomnia and you've implemented these ideas and it's still not working, consider cognitive behavioral therapy. You could work with a therapist on these and to help change behavioral habits. And if you've been in bed for about 30 minutes, you can't get back to sleep, the recommendation is to actually get up and go in another room for a little bit, whether you meditate or do prayer or just try to relax and come back to bed. And then if you have any snoring or gasping or, wake up foggy or other symptoms, that would be a good assessment to talk with your primary doctor about having some kind of sleep study to rule out sleep apnea. So next slide, please. So these are some resources around sleep. There's a Sleepio app. They practice cognitive behavioral therapy where it will ask you questions and walk you through different practices to try to improve sleep. There's the Calm app that has meditations, music around sleep. That is a paid app. Insight Timer is a free app for meditations, and they also have meditation and music for sleep, so you could try that. There's a great book and also a website, but Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. He runs the sleep lab at Berkeley. And then there's also the sleepfoundation.org. They have like a little sleep diary. This is the link where you could log and try to identify what the issues are. Next slide, please. Okay, so well-being, right? Well-being is positive emotions, it's feeling good, and well-being is how you feel at the moment. So it's every day, it's changing minute by minute. But basically things that impact it, it's our health, it's our finances, it's our work, it's our relationships. So how can we support those, especially during this stressful time? One, getting outside, being in nature, getting fresh air, getting that sunlight, which supports our sleep. Finding something each day that brings you joy, like taking a break in reading or doing art or calling a friend, whatever it is, try to do one simple act every day. Connection is huge because a lot of us are working from home. So identify what your support systems are. And then gratitude list. This is a great way, write 3 things down each morning or before you go to bed, just to keep that positive mindset. A journal is a great way too, just to kind of write out, brain dump any kind of concerns, especially if you're somebody who has that monkey mind before you go to sleep. This would be a great thing to do. And then identify ways to recharge. What's your way? Is it sleep? Is it reading? Is it playing? Is it exercising? But identify 1 or 2 things that recharge you. On the flip side of that, I would also recommend identifying what your signs are that you need to be recharged. Is it you get neck tension? Do you get headaches? Do you get back pain? What is it that's a cue for you that you need to take a little bit more time for self-care? So the CDC has a lot of information around this with tools, so I encourage you to check that out. Next slide, please. So anxiety and depression, there's so many different symptoms and there's a lot going on right now. But what we do want to be aware of is, if you're sad, if you're tearful, just feeling down and it's lasting more than a couple of days, that's a reason to reach out to your doctor, primary care, and have a conversation, right? If you work for an employer that has employee assistance, like a therapist, as part of your benefits, sometimes you can get that. You don't need a doctor's referral. It's usually called EAP. And some employers support that, but that's a great resource for you. If all of a sudden you're just not interested in doing things that make you happy, or sleeping longer, or maybe you can't sleep, if you have trouble concentrating, if you have thoughts of hurting yourself, these would all be reasons that you need to reach out for help. And sometimes by having healthy behaviors, we can prove these things, but sometimes it's a chemical imbalance and we just need a little bit more help, whether it's medication or cognitive therapy. So I would start with your primary care doctor. If it's severe, I also have some resources on the next page, if you will, please. So there's NAMI, that's a National Alliance of Mental Health. They have support for families. So maybe it's not you suffering from anxiety, depression, maybe you're living with somebody, which can also be a challenge. That is a great support group and they have local chapters. There's also the National Suicide Prevention, which is a number people can call for immediate help, or you also can always call 911. And then if you're in San Mateo County, they have the Division of Behavioral Health and Mental Health. If you go on their website, they have county resources as well. But I would first, if it's not emergent, going to your primary doctor or checking out your EAP resources would be a good place to start. Next slide, please. Okay. I think we're going to pause here and come back to this, but we can go ahead and open it up for any kind of questions.
Hello. Hi, Sarah. Hey, thank you very much for such a great session. It was really informative. So first, I wanted to say thank you before we go to the questions. We have multiple questions in the chat window. So let me start with the first one. In respect to supplements, is it recommended to have vitamins / Centrum capsules once a day?
Sure, a Centrum like multivitamin, I'm assuming, it's not going to hurt you. You can go ahead and do it. I would say if you're eating a pretty diverse diet and you're eating, vegetables, all the different colors, it's always good to get it from your diet. But if you're not sure you're getting everything, it's okay to take one. If you're more of a prenatal and you're in conception phase, then that's usually a must because of the folic acid. And, I definitely recommend it in that phase. I know there's a question around freezing. Does it reduce nutrition in food? Usually not, especially if you buy it, it's flash frozen and they usually freeze it at the peak of freshness. So those are great options this time of year, especially for like berries and vegetables. And it's quick for the week, right? So I use that myself.
Okay, thank you. That helps. We usually have concerns on freezing. We always worried, is the nutrition going away? So that helps. The next question that we have in the chat window is, how about these different grains that have been popular nowadays? But we also have some Indian grains too. I don't know if you're aware. Barley, millet. I don't know what jowar is in English, but it's an Indian grain. But bajri is millet and barley. Are they healthy?
Yeah, but diversity is good. Obviously, you just want to know where your source is, where they come from. But yeah, I'm all for using a variety because you get different nutrients and you variance in your diet. You're not getting tired of things. And so, no, it's great to use a variety. Okay. Just that portion size, about a hand, right? If we're watching our carbs.
Okay. That's helpful. Yeah. So more variety is fine. Just making sure the portion sizes, we stick to our portion sizes.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next question we have is, does sleep apnea become chronic over the years? And is it difficult to treat?
So sleep apnea, there's a few different things that can cause it. It can be a structural issue, weight contributes to it. And so the best way to really treat it is to be assessed as far as the cause. And so you can do that by talking to your doctor. They'll order a sleep study. The concern with sleep apnea is that you're not getting great oxygen and your saturations can drop at night. And then that also impacts our heart rate. It can cause and contribute to cardiovascular disease. It impacts sleep quality. So if you're talking about our hormones, you know, our sleep hormones, cortisol, things that can contribute to diabetes. So chronic, it can be chronic. Sometimes it's easier to fix with weight loss or they use mouth guards, but sometimes people need CPAP or machines. It's very individual. So I usually recommend just getting a sleep study and going from there because you really want to identify the cause and look at people's overall risk factors and then come up with a treatment plan.
Okay, thank you. The next question, which is actually very important to me too. What are the symptoms? Because most of the disease, as you said, starts from the gut, right? So what are the symptoms? Because we won't know, it's all inside, but what are the symptoms of unhealthy gut?
Yeah, I mean, so there's more options than there used to be, but usually if you're having digestive issues, whether it's pain or bloating or loose stools, those are some pretty common ones. And so something you could do that's easily on your own is to do like an elimination diet, like starting if you have dairy, that's like an easy one to take away for a few days and reintroduce, but keeping a symptom log. So, you know, for a week or two, identify how you feel. Does it happen when you wake up? Is it after eating? You know, is it at night you're getting acid reflux? And then working with like a dietitian. There's also these G mapping or gut mapping now where you can actually track your microbiome and take, you know, be treated based on that. But food is a huge one. And then sleep, coffee, caffeine, things like that, you want to take a look at. But an elimination diet would be a good place to start and watch your symptoms.
Okay, thank you. We have lots more questions, so I'll just keep going. Let me know, Kamleshi or anybody, if I'm out of time.
Keep going, keep going.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so next question we have is, what is the recommendation of food or diet for healthy hair?
Healthy hair.
Yes.
So overall, I would look, it kind of goes back to like the gut health and variety,
Sure.
making sure that you're getting all the nutrients. I would go back to that chronometer website and plug in what you're eating and seeing if anything's missing. If you have other concerns with skin and hair or other symptoms, sometimes we look at thyroid, so that could be a conversation that you have with a doctor if you're having symptoms with that. You know, people do take biotin to support hair and nails. I'm not a big, I try to get it from food versus taking a bunch of supplements. So if you're eating a well-balanced diet, then you're doing what you can. Otherwise, I would have a conversation with your doctor.
Okay, thank you. The next question I have is, nowadays we have a lot of course, heart attacks. You know, you hear people having attack at 42. So is there any upfront symptoms that we can come to know that, you know, you're going towards that or something, you know, not a surprise that you can.
Yeah. So there's a couple ways to approach that. I mean, sometimes we don't know and people have sudden out of the blue heart attacks, but if you're not, things to look at risk factor wise, if you have a family history, it doesn't mean you're going to get it, but you definitely want to be proactive. I would look at lipids regularly, having your cholesterol checked, your LDL, your triglycerides, your HDL. looking at your blood glucose, right? Because when our blood sugars are elevated, it makes our blood more viscous, and that can clog our arteries. And then stress, a big one, right? So managing your stress, it can raise your blood pressure, cause inflammation, sleep. All these things that we talked about today, you can work on plant-based diets, but symptoms, you're working out and you're getting shortness of breath or you're getting a discomfort and it's not going away with rest, those would be reasons for you to like go get checked out and
Okay.
talk to your doctor. If
Thank
you are diabetic or you have any concerns or family history, after a certain age, they do stress testing.
Is there any age, recommended age where we should start doing stress testing?
You know, over 40 or 50, if you're diabetic, they sometimes do it earlier because you can not get symptoms with diabetes due to neuropathies. So sometimes they'll do them earlier. If you're a diabetic, you can ask your doctor for a stress test. But if you have not been exercising for a while and you have any of those concerns or you're overweight, you know, you could have a conversation about having one with your doctor before starting.
Thank you. The latest question, we have this all new fad diets, right? So this is the intermittent fasting. Is it good? I know people are talking all about it. And is it okay to skip breakfast and only have 2 meals a day between 6 to 8 hours window?
So there's a lot of different questions going on there, but I'll start with the intermittent fasting. So there's a lot of good research coming out about intermittent fasting. My concern with it is, you know, is it sustainable? So if you're somebody who you're feeling okay and you're getting through the day and you're not having brain fog or binging later, then I would say give it a try and, you know, see what happens. If you're on diabetes medication, though, you need to work with your practitioner because you can't take your meds and skip meals. That will put you at risk for hypoglycemia. As far as windows, there's all sorts of different windows. People are doing 14 hours, 10, 12. I would just start with the minimum and see how you go. But I'm okay with intermittent fasting, see what happens. But I would say to you, it's not an excuse to do fasting early and then eat whatever you want later.
Okay. So eating good food is the most important.
Yes, yeah. Because I know plenty of people who do the intermittent fasting and then they go binge or choose things that aren't so healthy. So that's probably my biggest issue with it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. The next question we have is about inflammation. What is the root cause of inflammation? I mean, root cause of all the health issues with inflammation. How do we get it measured and how often?
Yeah, great question. So one way that you can have it measured in a lab is a CRP level, and you can ask your doctor for it. The thing about CRP levels, though, is they can be impacted by little things like if you had a cold or whatever. So you want to look at the bigger picture and your overall risk factors when you get that back. But all of the habits we talked about today, sleep, exercise, plant-based diet, stress, if you were to have inflammation, those are going to be in your favor to reduce it. But a blood test and then symptoms, be aware of symptoms and see if they improve. In the CRP, you know, we measure it maybe yearly or less. It depends on the person's diseases and risks.
Thank you. A lot more questions flowing, Sara. Everybody's really enjoying the session. That much I can say. Next question is protein milkshake. Are they healthy? Protein powder.
Yeah, so I think it depends on which one. You know, less ingredients in the protein is better. And then also, is it better or best? Like, it's great to have a meal and have variety, but if it's coming down to you choosing something unhealthy or skipping a meal, then I'm okay with the protein shake. And so I would just say if you can go back to that Dr. Greger's list if you can add to it, like add some greens, or if you're putting berries, I would try to, use some greens too for the offset the sugar. You could add chia, you could add your flax, so they're not bad. It just depends on what you're putting in it.
Okay. One last question. I know I'm running out of time. What are your views on MCT coconut oil? I know everybody's recommending now that, like morning 1 spoon. So what are your views?
So there's a lot of research on it. I would just caution people, it does have saturated fat. So I would pay attention to your lipids.
Okay.
And particularly your LDL.
Okay.
So
I think
yeah. I mean, your body needs fat, but there's also other sources of fat like avocado and almonds and walnuts that don't impact your cholesterol as much. But I know there's positive research around the MCT, but I would say I would pay attention to my cholesterol.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much once again, Sara. I know we have a lot more questions. It's a lot of interesting topic. As you can see, so many questions flowing. So thank you very much once again for such a great and educative session. I think we all appreciate your views and your knowledge. I hope all the folks enjoyed this session, and hopefully everybody can implement that in their learnings, in their life, to enhance their quality of life. So thank you once again, Sara, from all of us. And I think the closing comments, it's Sonal. So Sonal, back to you.
Sarah, I know you had the meditation slide, so I'll let you go ahead with it, and then I'll finish up later after you're done.
Okay, wonderful. So I just want to take a moment before we wrap up to thank you. I'm so happy to be here and be here in December as we wrap up the year. I would just invite all of you to do a self check-in and look at these things you learned today and see what do you want more of in the coming year and what are you maybe willing to let go of. And what the biggest takeaway is that action plan, you can apply it to any habit. And so, what will you do? When will you do it? Consider getting an accountability partner, or sometimes you have coach access through health insurance plans or your employer, but find a support system. You've got a great one here. But thank you for having me, and I wish you all a healthy and happy new year. I'm just going to end my portion of today's talk with a little meditation that is great for adults and kids, and it's quick and you can do it wherever you are. We're going to use your hand, and it's just a simple 5-finger breathing technique. And basically, you're going to trace your hands, and when you come up, we're going to take a deep breath in, and we're going to hold it at the top, and then we're going to exhale as we come down. And we're going to inhale, hold, and exhale down. And inhale and exhale down. And inhale and exhale down. And inhale and exhale down. And I would encourage you, especially this time of year, if you can try and do this once a day or any other kind of meditation, it's very beneficial for your overall mental and physical health. So again, thank you so much.
Kamlesh bhai, if I could have the contact details slide, please.
One second. Okay, Q&A is done.
The next slide after that. Okay. We hope you all guys found this session informative and helpful. If you're interested in joining, please join our Facebook group, and you can always reach out to us at the email address provided. If you would like to be a part of our mailing list, please type in your name and email address in the chat window now. Next slide, please. Once again, thank you so much, Sarah, for this informational webinar. Thank you to our awesome JITO team for putting this together and to Kamlesh Bhai for your technical help. And thank you to our wonderful audience for making it a success with your presence. Jai Jinendra.
Awesome.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. It was a very great session. I think we got a lot of good information.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. This is really good. And you can see how much interest it was. So it was really wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sara. It was really informative webinar. And definitely we are going to take a lot of information and use it for our daily routine.
Yes, thank you so much. It was really fun and it was an honor to be here with all of you and, email me if you need anything.
Thanks a lot, Sarah.
Sure.
This was
All
great.
right. Enjoy the rest of your weekend all.
Thanks a lot, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Sara.
Thank you, JWF. You guys are all rocking.
Thank you, Kamlesh.
Thanks, Kamlesh.
Thank you so much, Kamlesh, for helping us.
No problem.
Yes.
I wanted to see this happening, and it is happening, and it's going to happen big time 21.
This is great. Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Kamlesh, for all your help.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Have a good one.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye. I'll stop.
So, Kamlesh, we will have the emails and everything, right, in the recorded session. Like people are posting.
Yeah, I recorded. Suvarnaji reminded me, so I pressed the button right away.
Okay.
Maybe the beginning, like Suvarnaji started that, probably not, but most of the session got recorded, and I'll send it, and you guys can draft the thank you, and we'll send it out.
Sure. Thank you so much.
We had 62 registers.
Oh, 62, but I think only like 28 or 7 they joined.
No, every day, like 28 to 33 to 45 to 62. This morning it was 62.
Okay.
Yeah, while that might be like the whole family is sitting together, right? Like
yeah, then you have the families as well.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. For example, like we are 4 of us were here.
Okay.
So, registration to 4 tha, but 4 of us were here on one computer.
That was a good session. Nice information.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kamlesh. I know
Are,
it's a lot of efforts.
pleasure. We are all part of the same team.
I know, but it's still at your end. It's always, I'm sure it must be overwhelming. And
No,
really
it's good.
appreciate that. No.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right.
Have
Bye,
a great
guys.
day and take care and stay safe, everyone. Chalo, bye, Payal.
Bye.
Bye-bye.